On Monday, I know James was not with us on Monday. Did you find time to look at the recording?
Yeah, I breezed through it kind of quickly just to get a gist of the second what was covered. Yeah, so I guess so far so good.
Okay. But from I don't know the two classes we've had, do you have any question regarding what we're doing? Have you set up your accounts?
Yeah, so it's the GitHub, the portal, and what was the other one?
The Azure
And the Azure, the ADO, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have those three.
Okay. Okay.
I've always had a GitHub account.
Okay. You sound like you're familiar with the old processes already.
You know, let's just say I've been around. Like I know I know a little about a lot of things. That's the best way to put it.
Okay. That's good. So
yeah, and currently, I currently work as a Scrum Master. So
oh, awesome. Oh, so in fact, that means you probably have more idea of what we'll be discussing today. Well, what we started last week talking about Azure Boards, and that's more like a project management work tool. Like I was explaining to Stella and Titi. It's more of the products managers and product owners. And when you talk about
yeah, those are all familiar. You know, like I'm familiar with the conversations, with the lingo, the terminologies.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, just yeah.
So you don't.
I'm not saying I know everything, obviously.
I pardon. You have the permission to take a break from today's class.
No, man, no. It's listen. You can we can always learn something from other people. Yeah, we can always learn something from other people. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mentioned during the our first class that like I'm very, very open to learning. I don't choose who I even learn from. In fact, I always want to learn from whoever it is I've been talking to. Okay. Glad to have you amongst us. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, even though I think it'll be better if you even introduce yourself. I don't know. Generally, I know everybody introduced themselves when we started the class. So maybe just a brief introduction, your name, what you do. Yeah. Since it's going to be your first class, Akin, welcome.
Oh, good evening.
Did you get that? Okay. It's all right. So we'll just on Monday we started talking about Azure Boards. I think we stopped at talking about sprints and how they are a period of time. How sprint is a period of time, usually between 2 or 3 weeks, in which different work items can be completed and deployed. So what we have on the whiteboard is basically the agile process, even though
Quick,
we'll
quick
discuss.
question. Did you share sort of a link to this? Is this like a mirror board? Are we all supposed to have access to it or not?
I didn't get that. Could you repeat yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I didn't understand what you asked. What you asked.
So, I mean, I see you have it's something like a mirror board.
This is like a
Uh,
workshop, or it's a Zoom feature. It's just
oh, it's like a Zoom whiteboard. Okay,
yeah,
okay, okay. All right. I think
this
you're
was
trying to
what
make it
we got
interactive today.
confused last. It's just to well, like a board kind of, yeah. Since we are virtual, and then yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
So yeah, I was talking. So I will be focusing, even though we'll be touching on the various. I think we created three different process work items, different processes rather, workflow. Right, let me use the right word. Last week on Monday. But I'll be touching on each of them so we can see their differences are very salient, and they all have similar work items in them. Be focusing on the agile process mostly. And again, I'll still like to point out that the Azure Boards is more of product managers kind of toolkit, but because it's already incorporated into Azure DevOps, and then from time to time, as a DevOps engineer, a DevOps personnel, you will be interfacing with different stakeholders, different teams now. And so you need to understand their toolkit, what they use, and you will also be using it alongside with them. And maybe within your team, also your DevOps team, you would probably need to also use some of these tools, even though it might not be your regular DevOps tools that you'll be using for the majority of your work. But from time to time, as you interface with other stakeholders in the projects or the team, you would also be using some of their tools also. So I'll be focusing again, like I said, on the agile process, but talk about both the basic process and then the Scrum process also. Yeah, we'll look at some differences in between them. So I mentioned last Monday also. It's Monday. This I'm feeling like 20 days ago. We talked about work items, which is more is basically a piece of work that you note down in your Azure boards, and then you have different work items depending on the process in which you're using. So all that we have on this whiteboard now, there are different work items in the agile process, and then I just depicting this so you see how these work items it's like they are, yeah, you have them in a tree-like structure, and then they are used for different top-down goals. Now, organization goals. Again, this is to help the product managers, the product owners be able to organize and arrange different tasks. Basically, that's like the most common now. And then how to measure, I talked about this, how to measure tasks that need to be done, and then how to basically organize the development now of whether a software product or whatever it is that you will be working on. Well, mostly for the developers, because they are the ones that this would apply to most time. But again, this can be used in-house within the DevOps team and then within the larger team that's as a DevOps engineer you'll be working with. They will issue tasks to you, and then you just need to be familiar with all of these things. So this is like, again, the hierarchy of the work items, how they are placed. Epics can contain different features, and then within features would have different user stories. And again, this is the agile process in for the Scrum process is quite different, but this is even also, this is basic, right? For any process now. It's just that maybe it might be called different things for different processes. And then I would also just want to talk about how the first two, epic and features, they are mostly used in backlogs. I think I mentioned backlogs on Monday, how it's like a high level portfolio management kind of to track like a high level workload that needs to be done. By the time I'll be demoing and showing how these things actually work, and maybe it will make more sense. Most of these things, when talking about it theoretically, can seem very, very abstract. But when we begin to look at it, well, we would actually walk through creating each and every of this work item and then assigning it to the people that are available that we added to the project. I think it's only Stella that was able to actually join to receive the invitation that was sent to join the project on Monday. So even underneath user stories, we still have individual tasks. I was actually working on this before the class started. I've not completed it. Underneath it, we have different tasks, and then you can assign different tasks to different people. The task again is like a single piece of work that can be done. Also, we can disable each of them depending on what exactly we want to do. Again, all of these are still very, very abstract. Then we use different work items to relate to they are very, very abstract. And then we can relate all of these work items one to each other. Yes, so I'm going to just dive into the Azure boards now. I want to believe that this is very, very straightforward. You can see the hierarchy, how all of this is structured. When we create them in the Azure board, you would see it's more. You can see the structure actually in Azure boards. So this was where we actually got to on Monday on our Azure Boards. We created these 3 different projects. The first project is the one with the basic workflow. But again, like I said, we'll come back to talking about all of this, or maybe we should just say we'll start with the basic workflow. Is a very simple one. They introduced this, the agile process used to be the default workflow or process when you create your projects in Azure DevOps. So I think this was the basic process was included maybe this year or late last year. Yes. Just a simple one for teams that it was actually coined out from the agile process. So if you look at it, it has similar, that's in the boards now, the work items, they are quite similar to, it's just like a watered down agile process, I would say. It has only 3 work items. That's the epic, issue, and then task. The issue here is it replaces the user story kind of in the agile process, and then you have individual tasks, which also you have in the agile process also. So I'll be relating this, each of these processes one to each other, because again, they have similar properties or characteristics out here, if you have it now. Again, just like the tree I drew, I was presenting earlier, Epic is at the top of the hierarchy. Then inside the Epic, you can have issues, and issues you have different tasks. And then Epic, again, like I said, is derived from the agile terminology. Okay, yeah, so for the comparing this to the agile terminology, so Epic is like 2 or more agile stories, different stories. Yeah, again, all of this can be very, it depends on what you're working with actually. So I'm going to start by creating an Epic here. Say title cannot be empty. I know. So I'm going to be using very terrible when we get to the agile process, that's when I'll be using proper or like a mini project kind of thing. For this is just, I'm just going to walk through this briefly, and then this will be assigned to, automatically this gets assigned to me because I'm the one creating it.
So if I may,
yeah, you can. I can hear you. That's James?
Yeah. So yeah. I just wanted to add. So your Epic, right? Your Epic is a big picture overview of a component of a project. So let's say, for example, a project could be broken down into 4 or 5 epics, or it depends, any number of epics, right?
Yeah.
So you can break a project up into any number of epics. So those are like just big picture description of components, right? So those are your epics. And then each epic can be broken down into several tasks or user stories, right?
Yeah.
And then each user story can then be further broken down into tasks, right? And then of course there are subtasks. Now in terms of completion, the way to think about it is task and subtasks can be completed within an hour or a couple of hours, in few hours.
Yeah.
Right. That's the gist about tasks. Now, user story can be completed in a matter of days or perhaps up to a week. Right? Because the way we measure these is a thing called story points. Right. And sort of a rough estimation of one story point is about 6 hours. Again, every team has sort of their way of massaging the number, but roughly speaking, one story point is like 6 hours, right? So that's just and then feature. Sorry, so you have your epic, a big picture. So epic can be broken down into maybe you got 3 features.
Yes.
Right, and then each feature can be broken down into several user stories and then tasks and then subtasks. And then in terms of completion, also feature can take up to at least a month to 2 months or 3 months, depending on how complex the feature is. And it goes up from there.
All right.
And finally, one way to look at it is Epic. Okay, let's say you're grammar, you're English student, right? Or someone who likes to write.
Yeah.
Epic is vague, all right? So epic and feature tend to be vague, not too vague, but vague enough so that you can pack
it doesn't really tell you exactly what you need to do. It just gives you like a general overview, like okay.
Thank you. And as you work your way down, you become more and more, as we call it, refined, or you groom it further and further and become more precise.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll shut up now.
All right. Thank you for that breakdown, James. Yeah. Again, I when you mentioned that you're a Scrum Master, I just knew this is where you're going to excel. Yeah, I want to believe you know more than me in this. So each time you want to jump in, I'll just listen and take notes. All right. Yes. Again, like James rightly pointed out, Epic is like the big picture. That's why I have learned DevOps properly here. So this is actually very, very big because learning DevOps is, again, a lifelong thing. It's still, I wouldn't say it's new, but it's wide now. So you can't really say, okay, yes, you need to still point down, narrow it down. What exactly do you want to learn in DevOps? Because yes, they are very arms or the branches of learning DevOps is, kind of very, very wide. So I'll be using this for this particular basic process. I'll just be using this abstraction now. It might not make too many sense. It might not be project based, but when I go to the agile process, I'll be using more let's say project-based terminologies, because we'll be looking at maybe building a mini or a sample kind of project of building a mini board. But for this now, I'll just be using, it's just to, this basic one is, we only have 3 work items there. So I'm planning to just run through it very, very briefly. So learn DevOps properly is the title of this epic. And then you can add a description to it. Study. Again, I would also want to point out that this is a Scrum Master or a product manager's kind of duty. I don't know. I think we DevOps guys were more, or we people from the development side, they are more technical in our way of doing things. We prefer to get our hands dirty. Well, doing this is also getting your hands dirty. Don't get me wrong, but it's more on the management side. It's good to have all of these skills. I would say, but I wouldn't say I try very well here. So I clicked on save, and this epic has been created. So if I go back now, I can see that this, even though it's unassigned, I think it should automatically assign to me. This has been created as an epic. This is just how we can actually see. This is the epic. So if you're going to create a work item, another work item that is kind of related to this, maybe an issue now, because with this we have epic issue and then the task in between there. So we have this link right here to add an existing or a new work item. So I'm going to add a new
it's existing, right? So you want to link it to the epic?
I'm planning to even create a new work item that is, yes, an issue. Sorry, yes. Then name it. So we have new issue here. Going to say, start by reading. Again, this is still very, very vague. James rightly pointed, both the epic and the issue, they are not really straightforward. You compare the time you use in reading the book and then the time you use in reading chapters 1 to 3, you see that the time frame there has reduced. Again, when we really use a mini project to describe this, it will make more sense. If this is looking like confusing right now, again, it's always good to add descriptions to your work item so that whoever it says that you'll be assigning it to can get a clearer picture of what you are talking about. And this varies from individual to individual. I'm going to say this well here. So I'm creating this issue already. But now we need to link the epic and the issue together. So I'll be coming back to, you see that you have the icon in between them. They are quite different. That's how you identify the different work items. So I want to link these two together. I'm going to come since the epic is like on top of that hierarchy. So I'm going to add a link an existing item. I'm going to link it as this would be parents. This can be confusing at times, yeah. So what this means is this particular work item is going to be the parent of this, whatever it is that you're linking it to now. So it automatically detects that, yes, it's only an issue that can be a child of an epic, or an epic can actually be a parent to an issue in this case, as it's going to be now. And then you can comment on this, and then so automatically you see this epic is a parent of this item. I did not save that, so I need to save. Yes, I'm going to come back. I'm still going to talk about this area and iteration and what they do. Also, automatically, when you create a new project, Azure DevOps creates like a sprint. They have 3 default sprints for you, depending notwithstanding which process you actually take. So I'm going to get into them later, and then yes, like I said, linking this to this basically says that this is a part of the epic. It's easy again to really mess this up. So it's using the proper link type would actually do this. But we can also circumvent this issue by creating issue directly inside of the epics, inside of the epic now. And again, like I said, it's always a good practice to add a proper description to whatever card, whatever work item that's to make it clearer. So that's or if we're working in the agile or Scrum process, there's actually an acceptance criteria. We'll be looking at all of this later. This basic one is again basic, as the name says, and you probably will not be using it in anything. It's either the agile or the Scrum process, because that's where the software development life cycle methodologies, that's where they are headed. That's what they use now. I think I would liken this to maybe the waterfall model, but yeah, I don't want to go into plenty software development terminologies now. Again, we cannot run from it. Okay, next we're going, I would want to create a task as part of an issue. We're going to do this a bit differently. I'm going to open the issue now. Again, the beauty about using most of these tools is there are different ways of actually doing them. There's no one way of doing it. So it will vary from individual to individual. Different, we all work differently, and it's a beautiful thing that we have different ways of actually accomplishing one thing. So since okay, I'm going to open this issue and then I'm going to link this to, I wanted to link, create a new okay, so I was picking the wrong link type. So the link that I wanted to pick is to create a new item. Before I chose an existing one because I already created that issue earlier, but you can also come here and create that work item directly under this, and then it says that yes, it takes that yes, I want to create a child, I want to create this work item as a child of the issue that is opened. Type child, so it's going to be a task. Automatically take that the only work item that can actually be that can be a child of the issue here is the task. That is the individual task, and like James said, can be done within an hour. So I'll just say this with terminology. Yeah, reading terminologies shouldn't take too much as a title. It shouldn't take more than an hour or two. That's basic terminologies, the Epic and yeah. Okay, so now this new task is tab now comes up for in case you want to maybe add the description, or you want to assign it to somebody. I don't know why it's not doing this one. Serious. Should listen. So I'm going to save and close this. And if you look now back to our work items now, see that we have these 3 items that we just created. Backlogs is where you see like the tree, how this is actually arranged, just like in that diagram that you saw earlier. But by default, I think this opens as an issue. So it's just the issue you can see, and then you can open this down and then see that you have the task underneath. The Epic automatic that gets, well, I think we can actually, this is just to open and close this. Well, if you come to the top right corner, you can choose which of the work item you want and this backlog to actually show. I was still going to talk about backlogs later, and then again, it's like it's more of a portfolio management kind of thing. So once you click on Epic, if you change to Epic here, you'll see that you have the Epic, and then this should really show it should like this is what I was talking earlier, that if you don't add that link properly, so I guess this I did not link this properly. Let me see if I can actually edit this. This can be very, very confusing. I actually work in this area. Spirits, yes. That's why this. You can see here that it's actually underneath it, but it's supposed to actually show it underneath this. Just like we have, if we come to Epic here, we can actually expand this to see the task underneath it. I don't know why it's not bringing it now. Strange. And then you can actually explore all of this much later. If we come back to bots, we can see that we have a This is more like a way of actually saying this is on this board is where you will be spending most of your time when working with developers, when developing, even when you're working using any project management tool within your team. And so these three columns are like the basic columns. Once the work item has been newly created, is still under review, like, okay, yeah, this is what we want to do. And then when it has been assigned to somebody, it will be moved. You can move different work items around depending on who is working on it. We have people in this thing. Everything is just this. Please bring me out here. And then once you assign this, the person can now move the work items. Okay, yes, it's actually working on it, especially for different tasks. It's tasks that you actually want to move around. Since this task is under this particular issue, you move them together, and then you can have more than, again, one task. You can add more tasks to this. And then once the work item, once the task is done, you can, once you check on this, like, okay, because you have the issue as like the parents, and then individual task, and have more than one task under an issue. As you work on them, and take them off, and then when the overall issue has been done, this will be moved to since this has not been done, it's still something that it will be done in the future. So you can see 1 out of 2 of the tasks that this issue has been dealt with. Sure, we have this here. So again, I'll just try to cover as much as, because there's a lot going on in here, but the ones that that you would probably encounter or use on a day-to-day are the ones I just want to touch on before well, yes, basically I just want to touch on them. So this 1 of 5 generally means a team should not have more than 5 developers. Like in a proper team, you don't want to have the team too large, because it will get kind of complicated or complex in managing when you have too many people in a team. So the beauty of this Azure DevOps also is, like, you can actually, for each project, you can have different teams inside of a project. So for easy management, all of this is, again, to be able to manage our work, and then, like I said, on Monday, track, estimates the amount of time that is needed to work on different parts of the project. Again, now products are built in microservices, so it's easy to have different teams working on different aspects of. It's one project, but you have different aspects of it. So again, industry standard states that you shouldn't have more than 5 developers here. Yeah. Apart from developers, you still have other stakeholders. Like I said, you have product managers and maybe testers also working inside that same team. But for the developers now. That's where I'm bringing that in, so that you don't want to load your board, because if this gets really, really large, even the product manager will get overwhelmed, because it's not easy to actually track who is working on what, and then you see things moving around. So it's a general rule of thumb that you don't have more than, and then they've incorporated it into even the boards here, so that you don't have more than 5. When you have more than 5, this is just going to prompt you that now this is going to get overwhelming even for you. Again, I think we can actually add a test column to this. Thinking the options here. Columns, and then add a new column, maybe call it test. And add new columns. Because usually we're going to have more than one column. As in this, like I mentioned, we will have test, we have QA guys working amongst the team. So you want to have this, and then maybe you can move it around again. The test is usually for after the developers have worked on their, move it to the test, and then the QA guys tests before the QA guys that can actually move from test to done, before they certify that yes, this particular feature task has been done. So these 3 stakeholders, the developers, the QA guys, and the product managers, they work hand in hand. And by developers, I'm talking about both front end and back end developers. So I'm just grouping them into, so that's test column as we created. And practically also, that's one of 0 and 5 and then also at times you also have a deployed column in your board. Again, the number of columns you can have is not set in stone. It varies from team to team. And add and remove them as a ratio. Yeah, I think we've covered enough of this. The basic process. So we're going back to organization and looking at the agile process. This is, I think, what most teams use now. The agile methodology has gained much ground over the years as a software development methodology, basically because it puts creating an MP, the promptness in dealing with features and then getting the products out as fast as possible as priority. So it has gained much popularity. I think it actually, DevOps as a cultural shift actually was birthed out of the agile process in a bid to meet the needs of product owners, of users faster, because that's what agile preaches now. So we'll be looking at the agile process now. Again, it works mostly as the same as the basic process. You can make work items with a certain hierarchy, put them into backlogs like we looked, and then show them on the board and drag them around, basically. So this is going to be like a repeat of what we just looked at. It's just that when you come to your board here, you see that we have more work items in here, you see Epic is still the top of the food chain here, not the food chain of the work item. So the Epic, or just that Epic now contains features, and then inside features you have issues and tasks. I think this has actually changed. I think issue now is user story, like James said. It's a user story. I don't know why we still have issue here. I think you can actually change what's being shown here. But again, we don't use issue anymore. It's actually user story. Yes, issue is, I don't know why it's showing issue there. Should be user story. First. Again, to actually understand this, I would probably be doing some typing, because I would want to create a full, like a proper hierarchy of what this actually looks like. So I'm going to start typing now. So I would have done this earlier, but I think it's better we do it together. Something, an epic, start with an epic, because again, it's, so yeah, I'm going to use like a web shop now. So this is very, very big. So inside the web shop, what you're using this so that I don't miss out on item. This should be a child. I don't want it to be a task. I want it to be a feature. Title should be products. Web shop. This. Inside of this, products, creating time to child of it should be the user stored. The product account. Again, this is not the work of the DevOps. It is the product manager that will be doing all of this. So inside this task now, can now have individual tasks. Now more than one task. The database. So we're just seeing all of this in as a because we are in the work item portion here. That's why we're just saying it's just listed out here. But we're going to see them in the hierarchy as should be. You come to backlinks here, and this is just showing this still adding to be task produce. So a task and a bug, they are very, very similar. Bugs the recommendation is you create a bug from actually an existing. If you want to create a bug you don't want to create a bug from work that has not been done. Bug, like, is, if you are familiar with product development, is something that arises from maybe work that has been done already. You just need to fix something. So task is quite different from bugs, even though they are on the same level in the hierarchy. I'll show a different how they are used interchangeably. This is showing story as the top of this because stories that is actually added selected here. You can go and select features to show inside feature. We have this, then we have the different tasks. I think actually, yes, view add epic to this, so you can also see and then show epic there. So you see this shows properly now. You have the epic as the top there. Then underneath it we have the feature, and then you have user story underneath the feature, and then underneath this you're breaking it down to the different. And again, you can add underneath this feature, you can add another user story, if we call it products. And if you see the difference between the description or the title of the user story, and then the task, you can intuitively detect that, okay, yes, for the task, this looks like something that's again is a development kind of thing. If you are tended towards the development, you're coming from development, you understand that the title here, adding product in back end, is actually very vague. You need to break it down to, okay, yes, how do I add this product to the back end? There's some steps that I need to take before this overall goal can be achieved. If you want to maybe do it programmatically, okay, write queries to add different products to your database now, or you want to create a form, there are different ways in which you can actually add the product to the back end. So individual tasks would give you like a breakdown of how to achieve the overall goal now of this. So I'm going to add another feature here. Call it shopping carts. It was a web shop without a shopping cart. Then in this feature now, I think I'm going to have a user story that talks about placing items in shopping carts. Again, I'm just trying to populate this board as much as possible so that and I talked about bugs earlier. Maybe while they are working on this add products in backend user story, while creating the form, the products in here now, the encounter an issue, you might want to, okay, yes, okay. I want to add a bug in here, that the description for the product was not saved while they were creating the product. So So because this is already a work in progress, you can quickly add this as a blog, so that then assign it to the right developer, maybe the person that actually worked on one of these tasks. Now, okay, yes, they are connected one way or the other. Again, you can actually create tests and then test plan, but we're going to get into that later. If we come to our boards now, you can see all of the different features now that we have in here. Then inside the features, then we have the user stories. And then we have inside this user story, we have 3 different tasks, and then one board. You can switch between them, assign this to different members of the team. Okay, I can assign this to myself. I added us to this. I said I wanted us to actually work on this together. Because Stella, I thought you said you clicked on the invitation last week and you got added to it. Okay, no, that's for the that other project, not this Agile project. Then from here also you can actually add different I think it's usually sweeter to add from the backlinks, because you have those symbol at the start, and then it's easier to do this. So we have the dots, different user stories. I know this is still, again, very, very boring. I said we'll first, cover the boring parts before we get into the heart of DevOps. Now we are still trying to understand how to work with other people. This is the product managers and the developers now. This is not what you'll be working on on day to day, creating, but your business you have with working with boards will probably be when you come to the board, okay, and a task has been assigned to you. Okay, yes, I'm working on it, I'm done working on it, I've moved it to the tests column, and then the QA guys are reviewing it to see if it actually does what I say, or the product manager says it does, should do. Akin, are you in this class? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I know this is like a continuation of what we did on Monday. So if at any point you need to ask a question, you can, just jump into it directly, and let me, if there's anything you can, maybe that you don't understand what we're talking about.
Okay.
But so far, do you understand, all of this, why we're creating all of this, and then what it is actually being used for?
If I had to guess, it seems Azure board is how the iteration process of Agile is set up in DevOps. I guess how the sprints are aligned.
Again, yes, in a way, but the Azure boards is just a way to manage work that is being done for different projects. But this project now, we called it the Agile project. So that inside the project you can have different teams working on different aspects of projects. Like for this now, we're saying we want to build a web shop, and then inside that web shop we have different aspects of the work. Again, is to manage and then to track the work that is being done. I want to believe this is again, this is a way of actually training or want to be able to work remotely. Because if traditionally you go to maybe your place of work physically, there's a way that work is being assigned to you. Maybe verbally, like, okay, you get called, like, okay, yes, you need to work on this, you need to work on this today. So the Azure boards or whatever work management tool now is being used, be it Jira or any other work is basically to also in a way train, as Azure DevOps has put it now, train one to be able to at least get work. It doesn't have to be verbally, and then I don't have to maybe call you using any communication tool now that is being used in the company, be it Slack or Teams or whatever. Instead of calling directly, I can issue, especially when you have different teams working on different aspects of a project now. Instead of calling individual members of the team, you can just come here. Again, if I'm looking at this from the DevOps standpoint, okay, yes, we have 5 different members of a DevOps team, and then DevOps teams again can be subdivided into different teams again, because you don't want to have more than 5, I said, people working on. But it's usually even not like that. So I think the DevOps role, you would probably be assigned or put into a team of developers. You can have maybe 5 developers working on the project now, front end and back end guys, and 1 DevOps guy will be amongst them. So it's usually like that. Then you can monitor how there are different tasks are being assigned to them and how it's being done. Yeah, you don't want to do that, but you just have an idea, because from time to time, tasks will be assigned to you. Okay, yes, or maybe bugs that needs to be fixed. Maybe the workflow is broken now, or the CI/CD did not kick in when they actually merged a pull request. And so they will assign that as a task to you that, okay, go and figure out why that workflow failed. And that can be as part of an existing user story, or as part of an epic in the larger picture now. So, and once it gets assigned to you, you're going to get like an email sort of, or any notification now that's okay, yes, it's a task has been assigned to you. Then you get that fixed. Okay.
So Azure board is managing workflow within whatever that project is.
Project, yes. Managing, yes, and tracking the work that is being done, or the work that needs to be done for a particular project. Yes.
Okay.
So again, I'll keep saying this. This is more of a product manager kind of task. You don't get to actually create all of this, but it's just necessary that you know that yes, this is being done by somebody, and then you do. If you can be multi-talented, be a DevOps practitioner and also be a product manager, just like James is aspiring to be. He's already a product manager, then he's looking to switch. Am I using the right term, James? Is Scrum Master? I think Scrum Master is more higher in the hierarchy of product management, yeah, than just the product manager or product owner. Am I right, James? Titi, how's it going? I hope you are still with us.
I am.
Okay. I know you said it that you have an idea of how all of these things work, but have you did you work with an agile process or a Scrum process when you used work management?
Yes. So like
Let me. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, Titi.
I worked partly in sales and then partly in like product management. So I've taken like the CSPO and CSM certification. So this is very much redundant.
Redundant. Ouch. All right. Again, okay, it's good to know that I have both you and James on this team to help us in case I get lost. I think I've gotten lost now and again. I need people did not come and help me. It's not
No, you're doing great. You're doing great so far, bro.
Okay, thank you. Stella, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, so you're understanding everything that is being done. Do you have experience working with?
No experience.
Okay, but some of the terminologies that is being used, do you understand them? And do you understand why this is like?
Yes, but the one I did not understand is the one you are assigned for a child, parent.
Okay.
Yeah. Can we do it to all the work item? Or there are ones that should be parent, there are ones that should be a child.
Okay, let me bring up, let me stop sharing and bring up the this whiteboard again. So there's an hierarchy for the different processes. So the epic now, we have different work items, epic, and it depends on the process. But again, we are focusing on the agile process. So for the agile process, we have epic at the top of that's like the let's say the grand process, the grand work item, and then epics can now contain different features. So as it is, you cannot have feature as a parent of an epic. So epic is the parent of features, and then you can also say if a feature is still a parent of user stories. So user story cannot be a parent of feature. No, it has to be a child of features, just like the feature is the child of the epic. And then in the user story now, you can now have different tasks, individual tasks. underneath, which are just, they are now children of the user story. Different tasks. Does that make small sense in a way? Well, if you want us to walk through, to still walk through it together.
Yes, but the last one you did, you used the Epic as a child.
Okay. Okay. I was mentioning, when I was doing it using the backlog. When I was creating it from I think it was the work item. If you are creating it from the work item, I mentioned that it gets kind of confusing if you don't take it would just confuse you. So it's usually at times better that it's being created from here. If you're going to create them, assigning, you need to be very familiar with the icons to be able to understand how to use that child and parent linking kind of. So if I come to this Epic now, and then I want to create a feature underneath it, I come to the related work portion of this now, and then say I want to add either an existing, that is, I already have that feature created, so I need to add this as an existing one. I don't have any existing feature that I've created. So it's going to, since we are in the Epic now, and then the link type is, I want to create this Epic as a parent of, then you can now select the feature that you want to make this Epic the parent of. I hope that's not confusing, because even as I'm hearing myself, it looks like I'm confusing myself. Well, it's basically saying this Epic is a parent of this other work item that I'm about to create. And then, from the hierarchy, you can only have a feature as the direct descendant of an Epic. You can't, if you say you create, you want to add a link to a task now as a direct descendant of the Epic, that defeats this tool now would probably just take it, but structurally is wrong. The task should not be a direct descendant of or a direct child of the Epic. We should still, follow that hierarchy of how work items should be created.
I mean, if there was ever a scenario where the Epic is a child, considered a child, you can say the Epic is a child of the project.
Okay. Yes.
Right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, because there is still a hierarchy, right? Because the project is the umbrella, and then everything else is So
okay. Yes. Yes. So yeah, if you want to, have it that way, it's just that there's no way to actually depict that in
right.
Our on the board here, or in our backlog now. That's okay. Yes, but you can still say that it's still is, like you said, the umbrella, the agile project is like the one, housing all of this backlog, all of this work items. So yes, the Epic is actually a child of this. So the project is like the overall the patriarch now, or the matriarch of all of this, and then has different arms, branches, and all of that underneath them. Stella, does it make small sense now, or there's still confusion in between?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. I want to believe if you maybe work on it, create it. Again, it might be confusing at first. I think I encountered that issue when I was trying to create that basic workflow where the epic did not show up in here. But I think that's like in certain things I would have gone to settings that maybe enable it to show the epic and how this hierarchy actually comes into play. Okay. So again, there's a lot that can be done, on this backend here. Sorry, just a minute. Yes, we have different tabs here. We can, set in progress, completed child items. Then we can filter. And we have the options and the settings in whatever tool one has. I think the settings is like the first place one needs to actually go to see the different options that are available. In general, set the task. I was talking about bugs earlier. I said bugs should not, well, you don't want to create a bug as a work that needs to be done. A bug is usually something that has been done that just needs fixing. So, so maybe managing it with tasks is like the right way, or I usually say it should be like with a requirement, like, okay, yes, this requirement has not been met, so let's look for a way to get it fixed. So that's how to actually assign bugs actually. So, once again, the product manager is the one that would decide this, or maybe the QA guy, the QA person. They are the ones that detect the bugs while they are testing the product. So they're the ones that would actually be creating bugs and then showing it to different stakeholders in this. Yes, so we can actually go into Epic and then see that this is part of the Agile project, and then is also part of an iteration. This area and iteration, they are parts, kind of, is just to describe either a sprint or an iteration. Yeah, so this is still very, very basic. We only have one sprint going on in all of this. I think automatically when you create a project, 3 sprints are created for you. We'll get into that much later, but this is just saying, yes, this is part of this, iteration of this sprint. And then I mentioned that it's always a good practice to add description to whatever work item that you are creating, just to give more context to what that work item is about, or whoever it is that would need to read it or maybe review it later. And even for yourself also, you might create something and then the name is the title is usually very vague, and then can't really tell what you were thinking when you gave that title. But when you had a description, a short summary of what you were thinking at that time, like, okay, yes, what was my school of thought, what was my train of thoughts at that moment, you put it down. When you come back to it, it will save you plenty minutes of pondering, thinking like, oh, why did I create this epic? Even though, yes, you can't just create an epic, out of the fly. You must have, gotten or had several meetings with, I don't know, several stakeholders on the PS. This is what we want to do, on a general or in the big picture. I've actually been in meetings where product managers and then product owners are discussing, and boy, it's very, very boring. You don't even understand. I just want to get inside workflow and then start writing YAML file. I don't want to listen to back and forth on, yes, why do we need this? Does it meet our immediate need of what the customers need to work with and all of those? But again, in one's career, one would eventually need to join those kind of meetings to understand the products that is being developed. So part of the things that you will be doing as a DevOps is to understand the product that you are managing. You can't be keeping a product up and running and you don't understand what it does. Things will break that you probably need to fix almost immediately. As I was talking now, one of the servers that I manage just went offline because I have this uptime robots thing that lets me know that yes, this is gone offline. And then you need to go into it, and then you need to know the exact part you need to touch to get it back up. So if you don't understand the project, how it was formed in a way now, it will be hard to actually say yes, because now we work in microservices, and so you need to know, do I need to maybe restart the web server, or maybe restart the database server, or do I need to do something to get the application back up? Over time though, I don't know at what point did I yeah, I think I was talking about the epic DevOps. So yes, at what point did you guys like the thing just go?
At what point?
I was talking about having to understand meeting with different stakeholders and joining meetings with both products and managers and product owners. How would you need to understand.
Your voice is really low.
It's low?
I'm not sure if it is your microphone or. Yeah.
And the other guy is here.
Huh?
Well, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, it's a lot better now, but
Okay.
it's okay. I guess it's perhaps the microphone or the technology or something. I don't know. No worries.
Okay, so for the epic, we have different blocks. So this is giving like the details of, okay, I was making sure I was explaining, giving proper description of your work item, how it will save you plenty epic in the long run. When you come back to review of what's, I think I mentioned what's the power of documenting the last piece. Documenting anything, everything, to save yourself plenty back and forth eventually. So we have at the top right corner here different tabs that you can use in exploring now the epic or whatever work item you're working with. We actually cut across all of the different work items. You have the details tab, and you have the history tab, and the links tab. This link actually tells you the children of this work item. So you can see here that we have this workshop epic has two future children attached to it. So you see the link upward. If I open the join, it has child too. So Stella, I think this also like explains what you asked earlier. Even though yes, in a way, you can see that for this particular feature, it has two children which are user stories from the item here, even though it's not explicitly showing it, and is a child to the web shop. That's the parents of the web shop. We'll go forward to this. Check this link. So even this user story now has 4 children, and the parent is the feature, not the parent is not the epic. Now, that's how you can actually explore all of these various work items. And then you can check the history of the work item when it was created. This actually is a states graph of over time. This gets, especially if you're working in it's part of the team, and then different features, work items which will be created over time and are actually linked one to another. What's that? Yes. So over time, this is again a tool for the product manager, all of this in place. You can attach, maybe you need to attach a file to the work item. Also, I also like to mention that you can actually, if you use the delete button to delete a work item, if you delete this epic now, automatically all the descendants of this work item would be also deleted. So you need to be careful in moving around all of this. There's a better way of actually maybe saving a work item, like not deleting or taking it out completely. You can actually change the states to change the state to either active, reserved, closed, or removed. Removing it, it still means that it's still part of the project, but it's not being tracked at the moments, moments of the works we're doing with this technique, moving to another part of the projects. Moving on, you can actually, let's drill down to configuring this also. This is the general backlog. It has its own different options that you can move around. You can add columns to this, move around. Probably want to add a column for thinking of custom things like we use different options that we have here. We use maybe this is where to track this according metrics. It's part of the real item. This varies from project to project, from individual to individual. Again, I don't want us to bother ourselves too much of all of these things. Just know that yes, we have all of this as a tool that we can work with. And, I mentioned earlier that when you set up your projects, automatically 3 sprints kind of gets created for you automatically. So you can see that here in planning section here, we call default iteration 1, 2, and 3. And this is the current one, but there's no work schedule. It still is here assigned to this sprint. So the next option that we have here is sprint. This is where you see all of the sprints that you have currently working. So the iteration 1 is the one that has been selected. But this 2 other sprints, the future sprints. That says sprints are a period of 2 to 3 weeks. So once that is done, we want to move into the next one. We can have this as part of this still the project now. The end passes all of this management to when both tools. You obviously need to set a date for sprints. So we set the date for this particular sprint. The meaning is very, very the name that we give your sprint should be descriptive enough to actually tell give like a review of what task or what goal that you are trying to accomplish. We're starting this to be obviously setting the task. 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, everything to be 25th. So let's give room for extra here. So it's in the Agile project. Then we save this. So we have 15 working days remaining for this particular sprint. Say that we have 15 working days. That would help in planning how all of this work needs to be done. If there are bugs that needs to be added and all of these. Also, we have working days and sets. We need them to the developers to work extra days during the weekend. And trying to call it that. So I think is Scrum, the Scrum process that actually uses this sprint and backlogs. Mostly for the Agile process, will be spend most of the time in on the boards, in this Kanban board, to move things around, because Agile is a more actionable now, trying to cover plenty things in very, very few time to have sprints. And then we have also this query part of this. I must confess that I've not actually had any reason to use this, but I know it's being used mostly to let's say search, just like the name is, query your Azure boards, your work items. You need to, okay, yes. I said this, your work items can get really, really complicated. Imagine this is just for one epic now, and then imagine you have different epics, and it's still very, very basic, and then it's not assigned to, I'm the only one in this project now. Having this assigned to different people, you have, like I said, you want to reduce the number of people that you have in the team. But this gets really, really complicated. Now it gets large. Then when you need to search for a particular work item, maybe the one that's been done in the past, or the one that's it's like a future.
Yeah, it's like when you're searching for a specific feature or a combination of, like, you're looking for stories that have a few things in common, for example.
Related, yes.
Because, okay, for instance, sometimes you have a scenario where you have maybe a backlog that two teams working out of the same backlog.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a very complex scenario, environment. So you have a lot going on in there. So sometimes you use query to set up like shortcuts as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and then
but you're right. People barely use it.
It's rare.
There are other ways to get around it. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, true. But again, it's there to create, and then to this is you can use work item type. Say I want to search for maybe feature now that is, let's say user story. User story that is state is equals to say is active or set to the progress. See if we have anything that is in the progress. So this brings out from all of the user stories that we have, there are 3 of them actually. These ones are new. Let me see if I can narrow it down to one active. Is equals to equals. So I want to narrow down. Again, it's just a way of searching through all of your work items to get a certain work item, and then you can actually save the query if it's a query that is like something that you want to work with, you want to track. But there are other ways of tracking it, just like James has said, of tracking and seeing what I think you can actually set up notification for each of your work items to see maybe when it's being moved from the different parts of the boards. You want to see, okay, yes, this has been moved to resolved now, or this task has been checked as completed. You can actually set up notification for each of them. I don't know if you can actually set up for this Azure boards, but I know for Jira you can track different tasks, you can track different work items depending on the role that's playing that work item. If you're the one that created it, or you're the one working on it, you can set up different things on it to track and then to monitor that particular work item. So again, queries are not things that in fact, the whole of the boards, I'm still going to say again and again, is not something you work on regularly as a DevOps, from this DevOps standpoint. So if you are a product manager, this is where you will be spending most of your time, and then maybe using Figma or some other design tools while working with different stakeholders, different developers. Now, from DevOps, where we will be excelling is, or where we'll be spending most of our time in Azure DevOps is in the repos and then in the pipelines. So we'll be spending considerable time in these two different services. Azure DevOps is a combination of different services. Repos is mostly for, again, developers. They're the ones that do most of the work. I was still telling one of our developers yesterday when I work that I do not envy leaving development team. Yeah, I was trained as a software engineer, so well, I don't know. At a point, I just lost interest in writing code. Like, since plenty work, spent sleepless nights trying to figure out logic, and then, but even though just like a traveling woman, when she wants to give birth, when you are trying to figure out how to fix something, it gets very overwhelming at times. But when you do it, that's breath of fresh air comes, like, so I did it finally. At the point, I just lost interest in it. I still respect software because, yeah, it's a lot of work. But yes, and then I will keep saying your understanding of, you must get familiar with code. I'm gradually leaving boards because I think we've covered all that needs to be covered, except if there are questions that you guys want us to touch on, or maybe something you want to point out that we need to still understand in boards. I think the general consensus on boards here is a management tool that's, yes, every member of the team would or should use. I'm more of an old school person. In fact, Pelumi was one of the people that forced me to start using Jira. Like when I call him, because I have a very small team, so like when I call, when I need a task to be done, I find it more easier. I like to explain myself. When he forced me to start using Jira, in fact, the way I describe things, he himself would have to have called eventually, like, what exactly do you want us to do? Like, when I was telling you that it's phone call that works better, but I think technology is going with the generations. They'll tell me Gen Zs, they prefer to write out description, to don't call me. It's Kwelumi still on this call before I start telling the whole world how he has been stressing.
I'm still on this call. I'm just hearing yours.
Why are you still on this call? Are you not supposed to go and deploy something?
We've done that one since 11. I forgot to even update you.
Oh, interesting. It was successful, yeah?
Yes.
I believe you. Like I was saying, I myself, but it's just necessary that you use it. Again, it actually saves you on the long run when a particular task now, for this particular task, maybe, yes, it's well documented. You had the right description of what exactly needs to be done. And then, there's a discussion that ensues underneath it while trying to fix that issue. If you can have like a proper discussion with maybe whoever it is, like maybe this was, I created it, and if I had somebody else on this team now and assigned it to the person was having issue, okay, yes, I don't know how to get this data to be able to complete this task, or I'm having this block, trying to complete this, and then you have a proper discussion with this underneath here. Even after this has been closed, and then you need to work on something similar to this, maybe create this product list in another feature or in another user story now. But because you know, yes, as the developer, and I'm talking from the developer standpoint, okay, yes, I actually worked on this. I was given this task maybe in the last sprint or in 2 sprints ago, and okay, yes, I don't remember what I did in, creating this product list or the issue, the problem that I encountered. You can easily come into, if you remember the sprint now, you can run the queries. That's where query now comes in to actually search out this particular task, and then you see, yes, okay, yes, this is what I did. It will save you plenty time. Just like James mentioned, a task is supposed to take maybe 2-3 hours at most, but because you've experienced something like that before, that took you maybe like 3 hours in doing it. But because this was properly documented, and then, okay, yes, working smart is very key. You go back to that that task has been closed, and then you see, okay, this is what I did. The task that would have, cost you 3 hours in doing, you see that, yes, you actually, because the time you use in solving a problem is usually very small compared to the time you use in thinking about, okay, how do I go about this? You spend more time trying to figure out, okay, yes, what do I need to do? How do I need to do this? Than the actual implementation of that solution. Yeah. So that time of thinking about how to do it will be your time you need to start scouring the internet for, or reading documentations on how to fix that issue would be saved, and then you can move on to doing other things, and then you get more productive and be a more efficient person. So yes, it's a tool that one must get familiar with, and I'm glad that we have both James and then Titi that are familiar with this. I don't, Akin, have you worked with any product management tool before? Maybe Jira. I think I asked this last time. I'm not sure. I got a response from you. Is Akin still on this call? Guess not. Akin, you left the last class also. Do you want us to take a break? Titi? 10 minutes break? 5 minutes? 2 seconds?
Because everyone else is sleeping now.
I know this is not very interesting. And I know because Titi is not responding because she already said it's like redundant. Like, please, let's get on to something that I do not know about. I know all of this. I'm certified in all of this that you're talking about.
I apologize for my honesty.
But I didn't get that.
I said I apologize for my honesty.
Why should you apologize for being honest? I think that's even wrong. Again, I'm glad that yes, I have people that can check me on this, because again, this is not my strongest of tools that I would say yes I use on a day-to-day. I was still confessing earlier that it was Balumi that forced me to use Jira. And
I mean, all I can say to everyone is just get in there and create little projects and just kind of play with it. And the more you click around and figure things out, it gets easier.
Yes, you get familiar with where to go to. Yes. I woke up. I struggled maybe the first week, like why do I need to click, or why do I need to do this? Again, writing description and then discussing on it. It took getting your hands dirty. That's the beauty of this is the more you do, the more experience you have. You probably scatter things,
I've had my fair share of assigning stories to different teams and different, so it comes with the territory, but it's just kind of getting familiar with the environment. That's it.
For every tool, you're going to struggle at first. Even if you have the creator of the tool in front of you, directing you, you're still definitely going to need to work on it on your own. Yes, to be able to, actually, enjoy and understand using it. So it is like this also. At times, it's just good to also have like the theoretical knowledge of it. So also when you're discussing with whoever on the team, like, okay, yes, I've created a task for you in Jira. Okay, what do you want me to do? And all of those things now. So Akin, I still want to hear you. Are you with us? I was going to talk the other time. Akin has slept off. I understand everybody went to work and then it's like the time you want to rest. Well, yeah. Also, Titi suggested that we take breaks in between so that one is not overwhelmed with all of the talk. And I think I supported that motion in the last class. But yeah, for this, I think we can just, because we've already taken, when I got kicked out, I think that was one of the breaks, or the break that we actually used, even though I think I want to go. I want to break up on wait. I will confess delivery plans. To visualize and track work across all teams. This, I think, is also in a way connected to backlogs. I don't know what it is about. Again, I said it's connected to backlogs. It's just a way of work.
So, yeah, I mean, with regards to delivery plan, it's just a way of it's a way of designing a roadmap of the frequency with which a software or any project will be delivered, right? So one way to think about it is, so like I said earlier, let's say you have a project that is broken up into, let's say five epics.
Yes. Like, okay, 5 different epics, like the general overview of the project now. I think it's about linking different projects, different teams, and then different, like you said, different epics you can have for this.
Okay. Right. So first of all, a delivery plan is all about a roadmap for how frequently you want to deliver the product that you're working on. Right. So that's sort of a rough definition of what a delivery plan is. Now, for example, let's say you take a project that is broken up into 5 epics.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say each epic, so we broke up our delivery in a sense that for every delivery episode, we're going to deliver 1 epic. Okay. Now, typically, a delivery is done, a release or delivery is done after every, let's say,
Feature.
5 sprints.
Okay.
Let's say after every 5 sprints, using, if we're going by a PI planning setup, right? After every 5 sprints, you have a big delivery sort of ceremony, release, whatever. Now, the way you have that is, so 5 sprint, what is 5? So 1 sprint is 2 weeks, right? So 5 sprint is 2.5 months, right? So every 2.5 months, let's say the third week of that, of the third week, so 2.5 months, the third week of every other month, let's put it that way. The third week of every other month is going to be your delivery, sort of your delivery deadline. So for that delivery, so you have different teams working on that epic and so on and so forth. So everything that they have produced, from sprint 1 up to sprint 5 will be packaged and delivered to the customer. Now, the delivery can be done either through a DevOps pipeline. That's one way of doing it.
Yeah.
Or it can just be put into a cloud repository, and then the client can go in and tap into it, or either way, anything in between that. So that's just sort of a rough summary of what a delivery is all about.
Makes sense. Yeah, I have a better understanding of the delivery plan now. And then talking about the since you mentioned how it's gets delivered, yeah, I know now. I think teams now want to deliver much more faster. So, like you mentioned, you have a pipeline already set up as part of your maybe delivery plan now, for depending on the environment in which you're delivering to. So usually the development teams, they work on the development environments. So I think that's where they do all of that development.
And if someone is asking, well, how do we know if they're delivering the right product? Well, to break it down a little further, at the end of every sprint, which is every 2 week sort of iteration, 10 working days, at the end of every sprint is what we call demo, which is just a short way of saying a demonstration or a presentation of what was done. So every sprint you're working on a feature, right? Let's say if it's a website, for example, for 1 sprint we're working on the front end stuff, everything that has to do with front end, right? So at the end of that 2-week work cycle, the developers that work on that feature will go and demonstrate how customer would experience the website from the front end perspective, right? And once that is done, you park it, you put it in sort of a release catalog or something, or release backlog, right? So it gets labeled ready for release, right? And then you do that until after your 5 sprint, then you hit your
work. So you take that promotion leader to staging, where proper integration and regression tests are done on it before releasing it to or promoting to production environments. Yeah, makes plenty sense. Thank you very much, James. In fact, this your first session with us is really eye-opening. I like that, we are actually on the board's part where it's not we DevOps strong suits. Yeah. So yeah, cool. Also, I was going to mention, I've lost that train of thought as I was listening to it. Yeah. Okay, yes, we have, I think we've done justice to Azure Boards for now. And then as we go on, all of these services, they are intertwined, yeah. So when you will start creating our pipelines now or in our repos, for each of these, let's say, tasks or user story, you probably have it linked. So after a work item has been checked off, a task has been done, is probably you have a pull request that is made for that particular task now. Like, okay, yes, I'm just going to so I can see properly. This internet is slow. Sorry, just a minute. Can you guys still hear me? Hello.